now we will go to our panelist here, Pratima, and from her it will be an interesting perspective to hear. So she has been in the industry in past. Now she is at one of the campuses known for its HR talent, and she is seeing how talent profile is changing, the role of technology, new ways of learning. So your perspectives from which all of us, including us here, can learn.
Thank you very much, Ashwath. We are a part of the Symbiosis family, and we are based out of Pune, and there are so many students and so many different types of programs that exist in that area. The students that come in, from 2000, from 1999, the changes that we have seen have been amazing. From the time when we didn't use advertisements in newspapers to reach out to them, today we use only digital to reach out to these students. This generation thinks differently, acts differently, doesn't stand up just because you're older, will not listen to you just because you are more experienced than they are. Unless you make sense, they will not come back to your class, or they will not come back to you. I think if you are able to catch the pulse of that crowd, which we do, I mean, a lot of our assessments are online, a lot of our outreach is online. We want to reach out to these guys in a language that they understand the best. Now, whether you like it or not, you either ride the wave or you succumb. And they're just too large in volume to ignore. It's great to handhold somebody, speak with them in person and, coach them, guide them, etc. But maybe that's not the language they want to be reached out in. Everybody has a phone, everybody is connected to the net, everybody has a Facebook page. And we were sharing in the discussion that the lady who comes and washes utensils at my home has a Facebook profile page. She is ordering stuff on the internet. That's the generation. And it's not just white-collar people like you and me. It is, the guy on the road, the blue-collar worker who's very wired, who's connected to his cell phone. I mean, if you're not able to reach out to talent in that way, I think we will lose the game.
While we beat down HR a lot on a lot of things, look at the data. HR is already the second highest user of social and channels after marketing. Among all functions in business, HR is already, whether we are truly effective, can we do more? Yes, we can do a lot more. HR is already using social a lot on hiring, recruitment, maybe through agency, partners and so on, but that's happening. Increasingly, we are seeing HR deploying that on communication, culture, workplaces, that's happening. Learning is a holy grail where social can make learning a way far more effective than it has been in past. Functions which have used it are more technical in nature, but increasingly we will see it moving out of technical R&D functions to larger group. So that's really from us to share here. Any questions if we have time?
So we've got that lady there. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Bhavna and I'm part of BlackRock. My question is around one aspect of talent management that we haven't touched upon so far, around gender diversity and women talent. And I know that this is a focus area for many firms increasingly these days. And I couldn't help but notice as I asked this question that, through the course of the day, and you see the agenda, we have, I think, about 30 odd speakers here today, and only 4 of them are women. And that's just an observation, that I had. And the question really is, any kind of best practices that you all can share in terms of your experience for, bringing up women talent in terms of hiring, developing them, building their careers, and, creating that culture in the firm.
Now our talent supply pool is looking balanced, more balanced than in past. So you are getting increasingly nearly balanced supply of talent even on engineering and some of the technical pools. Earlier it was very skewed, and then that will be the challenge which manufacturing organizations will talk about. Beyond that, obviously there is training, sensitivity and all of that, but most important thing is there needs to be so there are 2 parts to it. One is how do you enable and support female colleagues through their life journey.
Right.
And so that in spite of that, they are equally, if not more successful in the workplace.
Right.
And you need a lot of support mechanisms. And panelists here can talk about that.
Yeah, I'll tell you, we being a manufacturing-based, mostly manufacturing organizations, I'll give you an example of my Hyderabad plant. It's manufacturing a lot of valves, which goes into automobile, and the assembly area, even the machining area is totally operated by all lady workers. And from the top to bottom, even to, I can tell you in the level of directors, and they also make sure that if a lady is working in the office late hours, she will definitely come, or he will come, the directors or the senior people will come and ask if there is anything, any help is required. And there is no written policy for that, let me tell you. And wherever there will be written policy, I strongly believe that it will not be followed. It should come from within, and we should not feel that there is a distinction. And today, if you make a distinctions, tomorrow you will be forced to take them. Let me tell you honestly, the kind of a talent acquisitions we are thinking of, where all these superstars and rock stars of talent acquisition professionals are seen as a pawns in front of all this economic cycle and business uncertainties. You cannot do anything else, but you have to take. If you don't take today, tomorrow you will be forced upon to take them. So you don't ignore them. What I say is don't ignore your female workers or lady workers. You have to welcome them just like anybody else. Everyone have a talent, everybody is talent, so welcome them.
I think what's more important is to be aware of a bias that exists. Yeah. We can't kind of, brush that under the carpet.
Parity and all.
So there is a genuine need. While we need to treat them equally, there will be additional, and a lot of companies do, a lot of my clients work around how do you support the transition during the time of marriage. There might be a need of relocation. Similarly, how do you support mothers to come back into work, flexi working? So a lot of innovative things are happening, and it's critical. On the harassment piece is a totally different area. Training is one area. The other piece is the whole policy around being unbiased, being very clear about all the actions you are taking, and zero tolerance policy.
Did my MBA 20 years ago, there were 6 girls in class. I was one of those 6. Today, when we look at our batch of 240, there are, almost 48 to 55% girls in the class. So I think it's about the pool you will get. I don't think it's about bias. When you look at knowledge workers, it's about what you have between your ears. It's really not your gender. Yeah. I don't think we should evaluate it like that. Women are no less. Only if you're looking at weightlifting, you will have to look at different weight sizes for a woman versus a man. Maybe that will also change. I really don't know. But, it depends on what you are doing and how much you value yourself as an individual.
Absolutely correct. It's also about the fact that women themselves undermine their own capabilities and their own
I don't think we should.
Extremely passionate subject. We can go on, and for me personally as well, considering that I'm pursuing one initiative very close to my heart called Women Endangered, and we are imparting self-building, confidence-building workshops in partnership with Leanin, which is a company, as you all know, owned by Sheryl Sandberg, CEO of Facebook. So we've got like a gold mine of data. If any one of you here would like access to that, I'd be more than happy to conduct workshops there.